Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fueling Your Legacy. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite books. Honestly, this book changed the way I communicate with others. It's changed the way I communicate with myself even, and it's changed the way my wife and I communicate. When we first got married, there was just as anybody getting married, there's going to be some miscommunications, things that one person says and they think that they're taking it differently than it's initially meant. And that happened a little bit when we first got married, and it sometimes caused a little contention. Well, this book, along with a co-book of it called The Anatomy of Peace. So The Anatomy of Peace gave me the ability to approach every conversation with love, establish a feeling and an essence of basically complete acceptance and forgiveness. From that book, I don't really get angry too often with people. I don't really remember the last time I was angry, but I'm sure it has happened. You can ask my wife. We are planning to have my wife on the Friday podcast. So we're going to go over some goals and how we can set things up for the next year. And we're going to do a family review, which I'm pretty excited about, to be honest, to see how my business from my wife's perspective. She is definitely my supporter and my biggest advocate, the most loyal person that I know. And I'm so grateful that she's loyal to me and I can be loyal to her. Anyways, so The Anatomy of Peace, if you've heard of the book Leadership and Self-Deception, The Anatomy of Peace is really the precursor to Leadership and Self-Deception. So this book was really good to help me get in a space of almost complete ownership of all of my feelings and lack of blaming anything on anybody else. But a next step to that is, okay, now that I understand that I'm going to take responsibility, I have to learn to communicate my desires and communicate to others how I need to be communicated to. And that is key. Too often in our lives, we know what we want, or in our minds, we know what we want. We know how certain communication from others makes us feel, but then we don't know how to actually express that to somebody else. We don't have the language necessary to express to somebody else what they're doing and their behavior, their communication, what's working and what's not working for us. And so it's important that we learn how to communicate and gain a language. So for me, I read this book, I heard about it on a podcast, read this book, and I was like, wow, this is the most perfect book I've ever read to explain how I feel and how I communicate with others. So I'm going to go over briefly what these 4 tendencies are, and then I'll share a little bit of me and how that applies to me. So there are, as I said, 4 different tendencies. The first tendency is an upholder. So what is an upholder? You may see yourself in some of these definitions, and that's okay. It's good. It may help you to identify how to communicate to others, or what things kind of burn your buttons, and how you can invite others to communicate to you so you can actually receive their counsel and their communication. But the first one is the upholder. And this whole book, I guess I should preface this whole book is written from the perspective of how you respond to expectation primarily, but then inner and outer expectations. So expectations you have of yourself, and then how do you respond to expectations that others place on you or expect of you. And so an upholder, they meet outer expectations and they meet inner expectations. So they kind of are on this balancing act, on a fence, where they're doing their best to keep their inner expectations, and they're willing to keep outer expectations as long as it doesn't affect their inner expectations. If they ever become in conflict, then they will lean towards their inner expectations rather than their outer expectations. So that's an upholder. They really like rules. As soon as there's a rule printed somewhere on a sign or somewhere, then they feel like they need to follow the rule. That's a trait of theirs. And a common phrase you may hear from them is, I do what others expect of me and what I expect from myself. So they seem very well balanced, but they also could not be very flexible in the fact that if they see a rule, then they will ride that rule all the way out, and they won't let anybody forget that it's a rule. And sometimes rules are meant to be broken. So that's the upholder situation. It's great for a lot of personalities, and everybody, I would say, needs one of them in their life to keep them on track. But then there are these other two, and then there's the obliger. So an obliger, this is my wife. When we went through and read this book, she's like, oh, that is totally me. So an obliger meets outer expectations and resists their inner expectations. So sometimes obligers, they'll have desires to learn an instrument, learn a new language. They'll have a desire to go to the gym more often, whatever. They have these desires, but they really struggle acting on their expectations of themselves. As soon as there's an outer expectation, though, they're there. As soon as they join a team and their team is counting on them to be somewhere, then they'll be there. As soon as they have a workout buddy and their workout buddy expects them to be there, they'll be working out. As soon as they pay for a class and have a teacher who's expecting them to practice, then they can practice. There's no problem. It's just if they haven't really learned how to do that, then like if there's no outer expectation, then they won't. In the case of my wife, this is more interesting even more, is that she does not like humans, other people, to expect things of her. If that happens, then she will go through what's called an obliger rebellion, and she'll kind of just plant her feet and say, no, I'm not doing it. And she'll resist other people's outside expectations. However, if she's being held accountable by an app, a calendar, or a checklist or something like that, she prefers technological accountability rather than people accountability. So that's important when you're setting your goals for the next year and you're thinking, okay, well, which of these four am I, and how do I need to be held accountable, or what type of expectations do I need to set so that I can actually accomplish my goals? It goes down to the manner in which you're being held accountable, as well as who's doing that for you. So a common phrase you might hear from an obliger is, I do what I have to do. I hate to let other people down. I often let myself down. Okay. So you probably know people like that. You might be relating with that yourself. Man, I've got all these to-do lists that I never get to do because I'm too busy helping other people. The positive is these people are super helpful, and we love having them around because they're willing to always be helpful. The downside is that once these people feel as though they've been being taken advantage of, or that they've done too much, then they'll go through what's called an obliger rebellion. And at that point, they actually will retract and they'll stop doing everything. They just won't do anything. They won't keep their inner commitments, and they won't keep outer commitments. And so that becomes an issue if you are not taking care of yourself and making sure that you're moderating what you're committing to and your expectations, and you're aware of this. Then you can go through what's an obliger rebellion, which is kind of just bad for everybody, because then you get down on yourself about not feeling like you've accomplished anything, not outer expectations or inner expectations. And so that's sometimes the downside to the obliger. On the other side of the obliger is a questioner. And this is like the opposite of an obliger, and that's me. I'm a questioner pretty much all the way. There are a few exceptions where I will get into a rebel. Almost never am I an obliger, and almost never am I an upholder. I really, rules are fun as challenges, but just because something says something doesn't mean that I should do it in my mind. The nature of a questioner, they resist outer expectations and they meet inner expectations. So the way to get Samuel to do something often is to get him to believe that he should do it, right? So once something becomes an inner expectation, I have no problem meeting it. I'm very, very consistent with my inner expectations, but outer expectations, I struggle with a lot. And things that I found are helpful with outer expectations are checklists, or a calendar reminder that dings and says, hey, you need to do this before you can clear the reminder. So things like that, they help me with the outer expectations, because I just resist. If somebody expects something of me, I will ask why 1,000 times, just really because I want understanding for the most part. And this is where a lot of common phrases that I say in my mind, I don't generally say this vocally, but I do what I think is best according to my judgment. And if it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to do it. And that happens A lot. Traffic rules are a big problem for me just because I don't see the point in them. So if you find yourself driving down the road and just questioning all the traffic rules and thinking, I'm not gonna have a problem with this. I'm not gonna get caught speeding. I don't see why speed limits are important. I'm not gonna wear my seatbelt because I don't like that somebody's telling me to or whatever. Then a lot of these things are questioner tendencies, and so a questioner just needs a little bit more explanation when they are, when you're trying to get them to do something. Just add a little tagline to it. Hey, could you get something from the store because of X, Y, or Z? Or would you be willing to rub my back because my back hurts and I would really appreciate it. Something like that. Then it's like, oh, okay, that's why I need to do it, rather than, hey, could you rub my back? For me, I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? Even if I love you and it's my wife and I think, yes, this is a good thing to do, I will still question it. It's just part of my nature and who I am. This helps me a lot when it comes to my industry, where I'm working with people's money and helping them establish financial foundations. I'm really good at helping them question everything they believe about their financial situation. I'm really good at helping them question everything they believe about their past and finding a more positive way to look at their past. The downside to a questioner is, even when I want to do service, like inside, sometimes I want to do service, or I think I want to do service, but I just don't like having outward expectations. So when people ask me to commit to things, I often will resist committing because it wasn't my idea or I didn't initiate it. And so I love being married to my wife because she will help me commit to things that inside of me I want to do, but I just struggle with the idea of having somebody else expect it of me. She's able to make those commitments, and then we work well together as a couple. The last is rebel. So the last of the 4 tendencies is being a rebel, and they resist outer expectations and they resist inner expectations. The common phrases for them is, I do what I want my own way. If you tell me to do something, I'm less likely to do it. And I have a brother who tends to be more of a rebel in his life. And one of the key situations there really is, sometimes he'll have this awesome goal that he wants to accomplish. And then he'll share that with people. And as soon as other people expect him to be accomplishing that goal and start following up with him and saying, hey, how's it going? This could help you, and start giving him resources, things like that, then it's like inside he still wants to accomplish the goal, but he just can't because he has to rebel, right? And some people are just like that. There's people who just like feel like they need to rebel just for the heck of it. They want it to be their idea, their opinion, and their efforts. And so because of that, all 4 of these, upholder, obliger, questioner, and rebel, they all have really good benefits as a team. I try and bring some of these people on in each of these categories into my business and in my team, because we need people who are going to keep us on track and obeying laws and making sure we're doing all the things that are just how they're supposed to be done. We also need obligers who are willing to just move quickly without questioning everything. Questioners are really good for innovation and helping innovate and questioning, hey, why are we doing it this way? Why are we doing it this way? Why aren't we doing something better? And always trying to innovate. Questioners, that's good. The downside to a questioner is analysis paralysis. They can get so stuck questioning everything that they never actually get anything done. And that's where the obligers are really good. The rebels are also really good, even though they sometimes can be a little difficult to deal with. They offer a lot of joy into the situation because they are always wanting to do things their own way, and they get the work done in ways that sometimes are unconventional. But once they get it done, they often are the people who are out discovering new ways of doing things that nobody thought of. And they're really, really effective at what they're doing because they're looking for the shortest, fastest way, doing it their own way, and enjoying it while they're doing it. So rebels are really good. Everyone has their place. So again, going back to, for me, when I first read this book, it gave me a language to then go to other people that I worked with and say, okay, because of certain experiences in my childhood, when people are communicating to me a certain way, I'm I naturally, or conditioned wise, respond this way, respond negatively because I don't like this form of communication. And then as a result of that, I really struggle to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And so I was then able to explain to these different people how, if they were to change their form of communication and start trying to encourage me based on what my goals are, rather than encourage me based on their goals or the team goal or whatever it is, then I would be much more consistent in doing this. A funny story about this is with my wife. We were one night talking about birthdays and holidays. She grew up loving birthdays and holidays. Myself, they weren't necessarily my favorite time of year or my favorite days. They just seemed like every other day. Maybe we got a cake, maybe we got a little present or something, but it wasn't like a super special day in my childhood for me, the way I remember them. And so as a result, I just didn't really celebrate them. Well, one year I didn't celebrate my wife's birthday, and she was not happy about it. And so we had a really long discussion about why she was not happy about this. Now, one of my inner commitments to myself is I like to grow. I like to make my relationships better. And if somebody says, hey, Sam, if you do something this way, it will actually improve productivity, it will improve the atmosphere, it will improve the environment, then I'm willing to try it out most of the time just because I like to grow. It's something that I'm always chasing. And in work, I do that a lot. Somebody suggests that I do something and I try it out. I don't always continue to do it. If I don't feel like it works for me, then I'm not going to keep doing it. But I'm willing to try things out all the time, and I change pretty quickly. Well, at home, this was not happening. And so we sat there and we talked and debated. And then finally, this light bulb goes off in Sharlie's mind. And she says, well, Sam, at work, if there's a suggestion that's going to make something better, then you just do it immediately. Why are you not applying that same principle, value, situation at home with us? When I say birthdays would make me a lot happier, why are you not listening to that? And there was a light switch that went off, right? Because before it was an outer expectation that I do something that I don't want to do, right? And that was not consistent with me. I don't like to do things I don't want to do. And emotional arguments don't work well with me. Just because she wanted me to celebrate birthdays, that for her to be emotionally happy, why should I have to be emotionally unhappy so that she could be emotionally happy? It seems like a win-lose thing, and I don't like those situations. Well, she mentions to me that I'm now inconsistent with one of my values. And it was literally like an off-on switch. And now I love birthdays. I love holidays. We really celebrate them. We enjoy them because that was something that was consistent with me. She was able to help her outer expectation, something that she wanted me to accomplish, and change that into an inner expectation of mine. And since then, I've not struggled with it at all. In fact, I just love birthdays now. It's fun to have been able to have somebody coach me through that. And again, it's not that I didn't want to celebrate birthdays. I just had an issue with the manner that I was being asked to celebrate birthdays. But as soon as the communication was able to be communicated to me more clearly, I was able to change. And I think that we all have people in our lives where we see this interchange where we just need to learn to communicate with them. They need to learn to communicate with us. And so this book, The 4 Tendencies, completely changed the way I communicate with people and the way I'm able then to allow them to communicate with me. I strongly, highly recommend you all pick up this book. It's going to improve your family lives. It will improve your business lives. It will improve your work, your religious work, the relationships you have in all these different areas. It will improve the relationships with money. It will improve the relationships with your phone. It will improve the relationships all over, because once you understand how you're responding to inner and outer expectations, you actually can set goals. You can actually set objectives, especially with New Year's coming up. You can set these things in a way that are really going to help you accomplish them. You can recognize, okay, this is my tendency of being, rather than fighting against it and trying to do something outside of the realm of who I am. Why not just use my gifts, use who I am to help me accomplish my goals? And so you can set up your goals. You can word your goals. You can ask other people to support you in ways that are going to help you accomplish your goals, rather than being depressed or sad in a month from now that you have failed at accomplishing your goals because you didn't really plan out a way that was going to help you. So that is the book review. There will be a link in the show notes where you can get that on Amazon or on Audible. But this book is phenomenal and in my top 5 favorite books for sure, because it was life-changing for me. It helped me accomplish and gain the communication skills that I needed to progress and move farther and farther into my business. So if you are able to like, comment, and review this, that'd be fantastic. Please share your thoughts. There will be a post about this on Instagram at @SSKnickerbocker and also on Facebook. That way, as you go about your day, have a discussion, learn from others, read the book, and then post what you think you are. What's your tendency? There's also a short quiz for this that I'll put in the show notes as well if you just want to go take the short quiz to find out what your tendency is most likely. But I would say read the book. Again, we've talked about this. Some are informational, some are self-help books, some are just comic relief books. For me, this is the book that I laughed through the most. I think it's still in the self-help category, but I laughed through this the most because Gretchen Rubin, who's the author, she was able to describe the things I think better than I could. And she could describe, okay, here's all of the thoughts that are happening. Here's how you can be helped in this situation. Here's how you can go ask other people to communicate a certain way to help you. And that was super, super helpful. So thank you, Gretchen Rubin. I will also tag you. So if you ever get a chance to listen to this, then that'd be good for you. But thank you so much. And thanks for all those who are listening to Fueling Your Legacy. And we are going to make 2019 a fantastic year. Today is the 2nd of January. And believe me, 2019 is going to go fast. 2018, I feel like just started and it was over on Monday. So have a wonderful day and we will talk to you next time. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.